Welcome back to another Boxscore Geek show. We've got a blast from the past, almost as old as the Denver Nuggets winning of the Western Conference Finals and the San Antonio Spurs winning the NBA draft. Andrew Sutton is on the show to talk what else playoffs. I'm your host, Dre Alvarez, Famous Places Nerd Numbers, joined as always by my producer, Brian Foster. And at the end of the hour, we'll let you get a shout out. Andrew Sutton, welcome back. So we're just going to be talking playoffs, and we've got 4 series to wrap up and then 2 that are kind of half going on. Miami, we're giving you live updates here at Nerd Numbers. Miami Heat are up 108-100, and we're going to have tons to say about that. An 8 seed making the NBA Finals could be something. All right, but what I was going to say is we're going to talk George Karl and relate that to the future, because George Karl has a notorious reputation as a playoff choker, possibly rightfully deserved. Now, admittedly, that 96 team that loses to the Bulls, that Bulls team, that was at the time the all-time winningest team in NBA history, still the only 70-win team in NBA history to win a finals, Brian. Sorry, have to throw that salt. And, you know, the Sonics were supposed to lose, but don't forget, my Denver Nuggets, as an 8 seed, knocked off a 67, or I want to say 67, something like that, plus 60, number 1 seed Sonics team. George Karl is known as a choker. Now, in deciding playoff games, I saw some stat come up. He's like 13-13. So it's like, okay, you know, he loses some games that he, you know, probably loses some games he should have. Doc Rivers has now lost, I think, multiple 7-game series. I think with like 3 or 4 franchises. He is the biggest choker all time. And I just love it. Shout out to another podcast I like, the Unpopular Opinion podcast. Tiff Myers and me go back and forth all the time because he says his unpopular opinion is Doc Rivers is overrated. But that 76er series, I'm curious. I'm going to throw I've got my opinions, but I wanted them to advance to increase the odds of my Nuggets winning a title, because this is a very weird playoffs, because right now of the 4 teams remaining, Boston is the only team that looks like a traditional NBA title team. Obviously a number 7 seed, a number 8 seed, and the Denver Nuggets have that MVP player, but if you look at their strength of schedule, they're below what a normal title team would win. So I wanted the 76ers to advance. That being said, blowing a 3-2 lead the way they did was just chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned former players talking about former coaches, because Rasheed Wallace was just on a podcast talking about Doc Rivers and was talking about how it wasn't him, it was the assistant coaches that should have got more credit. Tom Thibodeau, and there was another who was like the defensive coordinator for the Celtics, and there was an offensive coach. I can't remember the name of that guy, but he was talking on his podcast about it. And I've always kind of felt like Doc Rivers got credit for things outside of him. Like when he had that 08 Celtics team, yeah, kind of hard to mess that up. When you're driving a Porsche, or you're driving like this really fancy car, it go fast and do all these things, kind of hard to mess that up.
Well, I'll throw this out as a comparable to, say, Phil Jackson. I give any coach that coaches Dennis Rodman. So is it Daly or Daly?
Chuck Daly.
Chuck Daly,
yeah.
amazing coach. I cannot believe he did not win a coach of the year in his career. He did, of course, coach the Olympic team, multiple title squads with Detroit, an amazing coach. And, Dennis Rodman had some rough years, and there's an argument that his good relationship with him and then Chuck retiring was part of, or moving squads is part of why that, he did have that interesting stretch. Anybody that coaches Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, that cast, being able to hold those characters together, even when you're oh, well, anybody could coach Michael Jordan and win, right? You're not wrong, but there's a difference between coaching Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman to a mid-50s win team that loses in the playoffs. Think the Spurs when Dennis Rodman was there, and being a 60-70 win team that wins everything. That 08 Celtics squad was such a paint-by-numbers squad for all the, positionless basketball crap. Rondo, Allen, Pierce, Garnett. Sorry, he was good when he was young. Perkins. He was good. I always forget this, so I'm going to try and look this up really quick. But there was a guy off the bench, really just an amazing sixth man that, belonged on the squad in 08. So it's that was a paint-by-numbers squad. So exactly what you're saying. It's I think I think you could take some all-time great squads. Heck, even the Warriors, right, Brian? I think you could take them and put a traditional coach on them, and it's not a great squad. And James Posey, by the way, is the name I was looking for as the sixth man.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Former Heat grade as well.
Yeah, just amazing, perfect six man, right? Arturo says your top six dictate your playoff success. That Celtics squad had it. But yeah, so that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like when your top six are belong in these slot, play them this way, you're going to win. I don't give a lot of credit to the coach. Now, for the Heat, or not the Heat, the 76ers, I'm curious. I'll throw to Brian really quick. If you have any opinions, I definitely have
I
some
do.
some
I
fun
do.
stuff crunching. Oh, let's hear it.
No,
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
I'll talk on Doc Rivers as a coach. Like his reputation is basically on offense in the playoffs. There kind of isn't one. Like he just says, go isolation and go score, right? He's the opposite of Steve Kerr, who has a complicated offense. Defensively, sure, like his teams have played good defense, but I tend to agree with Andrew on this. If you have Kevin Garnett, your defense is going to look pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, getting rid of Doc Rivers is probably not the worst thing in the world for the 76ers, but the players are a bigger issue. And that being said, I'm not too down on the 76ers. Like the way it happened looks like a choke job. Everyone hates it, but they stood up and went 7 games against the Celtics and they look pretty good. So, I'm someone who believes in choking, I think they had a good year and they could be okay next year too with some help. Maybe Tobias Harris's contract is a bad one for them. But Andrew, I really want to hear you about this.
I think James Harden's leaving.
Yeah,
From
that
all
could be.
from everything I've been reading, he wants to go back to Houston, which I don't understand why, but I guess he really likes the food there. Um, Philly did really good for as far as what I expected. I didn't think they were gonna battle Boston the way they did,
Yeah.
but I also thought Boston since last year. I just have lost faith. I don't know if it's a Tatum and Brown thing. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is, but I've always felt like they're a great team. And if I could use we like to play, I like to play spades, and
Same.
they don't have a high spades. They have
They got no
a
Trump.
few mid tier. They have some jacks, some tens,
Right, some queens.
maybe a queen, but there's no ace. There's no ace. Boston doesn't have an ace of spades.
If you're in that situation, you got to give him bags. That's the way to do it. Just give him all the bags.
Exactly. And Jaylen Brown is up for the Supermax.
That is so dicey for
So
them.
that's going to be rough because for what you're paying for, you're not getting a lot back. So I'm not a big believer in Boston. Missoula, it was a couple of questionable things he did on the last few games in that series. So my thing is the championship's coming through the West, I feel like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's I threw this out last show. Let's point this out again. Here's the outcome we have, and I'm ways. Denver Nuggets win. I mean, obviously, I'm just elated. Los Angeles Lakers win. Of course, we get our boy Chris Ye gets a win, but also if one of the Lakers or Celtics win, we get banner number 18. Now we've had lots of fun discussions, as in should the Lakers Minneapolis titles count towards their final total versus should the Celtics titles when the league was like 8 teams and 2 buys and like half the league was playing in the ABA, whatever, right? But just number 18 goes to one of those squads. So we got that. Or a number 8 seed wins the title. Like, there is no outcome of the NBA Finals that is not historic in some way. Nuggets, first-time winners. Celtics or Lakers, banner number 18. Heat, number 8 seed. Any of
So
those
has that
things
never
happen.
happened, Dre? An 8 has made the finals, but no one's ever won.
And just checking, is I think the only 8 seed let's see, the 8 seed that made the finals, the Knicks made the finals
Yep.
in 99. The best seed, I think, to ever win the NBA Finals was in 95, the Houston Rockets with Clyde Drexler.
Right.
And then I wanna say that the worst seed to make it actually was the Houston Rockets is the only team to make an NBA Finals with a losing record. which happened mid-'80s. I'm going to try and look that up really quick, but that did happen.
Forgot about that.
And I can't remember if they were
Is that like Ralph Sampson days?
it was a
Criminy.
Ralph. It was Ralph Sampson, and the key player was Moses Malone. So they made
Oh,
it
of
with a
course,
40
of
and
course.
42 record. An interesting thing I wanted to throw out that I know we've talked, and the Embiid love hate. I've definitely batted back and forth because I've said he did not deserve MVP. I think there's a lot of course correcting by people that bashed Hinkie in the process and want to still argue that a top points per game player that was drafted top 3 matters in the NBA. Kind of the same thing happened, I would argue, with Jeremy Lin back in the day, where a lot of people that were dour one way were like overcorrected the other way after the fact. But what I was going to just note is we've talked Embiid his health, and this season shocked me. I didn't think he was ever going to crack 2,000 minutes. But Brian, on some of the older shows, I'd made the stat that Joel Embiid has never had a season wherein, and this remains true, he has never had a season where he has played over 2,000 minutes in the regular season and not missed a playoff game to injury. And that remains true this year as well. And so that's the scary part to me about Embiid. And when you're talking like future going forward, Harden and Embiid are both old. Harden might be gone. Embiid, I still do not trust the health. And so, I mean, I think the reality of that team, exactly what we're talking about, like good coaching and stuff, is what's really rough is I think the window for this squad to win was really small. And I'm shocked it lasted as long as it did because, right, Simmons, we found out after the fact, like he had like 3-4 good years in the NBA. I'm sad to say this, but I would be shocked if Simmons is ever good again. And we thought he was great. But
I agree.
mean, it's
He's
so
young
remarkable.
enough, but it's rough with your back. Your back is such an important part of your body.
He
Right.
could potentially pull a Grant Hill. I could see that happening and come back and be so for those that don't know, wins produced, wins per 48. The metric we normally use is like 100 is average, and that's Jaylen Brown. I was looking those numbers up, Andrew. And that makes me sad because you're right. Like Jaylen Brown is a good part of a title squad.
Right.
And you can't let
He's
those
like
out.
a James Posey. He's like a James Posey.
Yeah.
And you can't let those out the door because if you let them out the door, you kind of just lose. On the flip side, once you start paying enough players like at this point, Al Horford and Jaylen Brown, they're close to average players, and with how much money and time they're sucking up, you just start losing ground to teams like the Nuggets. The Nuggets are freaking awesome, top to bottom. We were talking that, so that really could happen. So the same thing with the 76ers, right? This short window, and you watch what Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers have done, and I think they kind of like squandered a potential. And I think the irony is for how much bashing I like doing of those people, really, 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 it comes down to some bad bounces, right? The game winner from Toronto from Kawhi, first game 7 game buzzer beater to win a title that Kawhi put in that bounced 3 times.
Brutal.
That happened to knock them. They were up 3-2, and then I think there's more health than people give credit to like Embiid. And that makes it rough for me because I'm sitting here going like, oh, you people that said Embiid was the MVP pre-show. I was like, I will never forget. Like like all the people now that are on Twitter, all the talking heads that are like, the one I made the most fun of, I think, was Jalen Rose, and I got some love for this. Jalen Rose said, Nikola Jokic has graduated to superstar. And I said, this is like announcing Dr. Dre has got his PhD. And that got some love. I was proud of that. But yeah, it's like, no, I will not forgive anybody that missed Nikola Jokic this season. But even with that.
And it's so funny that you were hesitant on Kendrick Perkins when Kendrick Perkins ignited this whole thing. Once Kendrick Perkins went on First Take and said there was a racial bias on MVP voting, it shifted from everyone was like Jokic all year. They were Jokic all year. So that day it went from that to Embiid, and then there was a push from there on.
Wait, Dre, you have a different theory, right? There was a game that he played in. He played really well in a certain game.
So there are 2, and let's talk about. So by the way, here's what frustrated me about that Kendrick Perkins take, and I hate it so damn much when this happens. Where I'm like, I absolutely hate the position, the side you are on, the Embiid over Jokic. He has a point.
Yeah,
I hate that. I hate that so much because you definitely get that, right? Like old white coaches like George Karl, like Kevin McHale. Oh, they're cerebral. They should coach the NBA. You get Patrick Ewing and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like two of the best ever, and like they never got a chance at coaching. And like I think you two might know better because I think you know college better than me. But I think with Georgetown, I think Patrick Ewing was just like set up to fail because I think like the school was kind of going down in quality, and they're like, okay, we'll get a big name that'll make a big splash because of course he's known from there. And I don't think he had any hope, and that was like his one major shot at proving he could be a coach and failed. So I
Yeah,
absolutely
recruiting's
hate-
hard. Recruiting's just it's a hard college.
Completely
college
different
coaching
from
is hard.
coaching.
Yeah,
and I
it's
mean,
not. It's the skills. The skills to succeed in college are a lot different than the ones to succeed in the pros.
That's right.
I will shout out. I know it's a meme, but one of the Patrick Ewing, I think, is an assistant coach where he's getting mad about the player taking that shot. He's like,
Oh, he was the head coach. He was the head coach.
it was head coach, but he was just like, "Do you
Yep.
ever practice that shot?" He's like,
Right.
Why are you taking that?" It's one of the. If you haven't seen it, look up like Patrick Ewing. You ever take that shot? It's
Which
great. But
applies to the guy we're going to talk about later.
oh, really? Which one? Who was he saying that to?
The future number one pick.
Yeah.
It applies to that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, I'll see if I can get this. But yeah, I was going to say about the 76ers is as much as I wanted to bash on Embiid being overrated relative to Jokic, I think another thing, 37 seconds to go, 8 points up for the Heat. Jimmy Butler has 6 steals and 7 assists. I'm sorry. I should be paying attention. But I said in the teaser, Brian, when I tweeted this out, I wasn't going to be. That's on me. But anyway, with that being said, I think Embiid got injured, and I bring this up all the time, that players get injured, they come back, they're not 100%. And so an irony is this MVP debate that we had going on, I think Embiid and the 76ers really pushed for him to win MVP. And to your point, Brian, the reason that happened is he scores 50 against the Boston Celtics at the end of the regular season, and that clinches it, right? Because it
That's
gets
right.
them
He
to
was
number 3.
against the Celtics.
It was again, and so that, by the way, we talk about how the NBA is wrestling and story. Story is a huge thing. And I would make the argument that this is a perfect bookend, right? Joel Embiid.
Sports in general.
Love. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, yeah, like wrestling needs to just rip off good sports storylines. And this is a good case, right? It naturally happens. Embiid scores 50 to win the MVP against the Boston Celtics. They're up 3-2. Jason Tatum cannot hit a damn thing. That was one of the worst 3 quarters in playoff basketball I have ever seen. Jason Tatum, by the way, I'll throw this out for those that don't know. The Celtics winning game 7 behind Jason Tatum's 51 points. Best game of the playoffs so far. 22 points over par production. That is ridiculous.
Wow.
I think on Brown and Tatum, Dre, they were really good when they were younger and their roles were a little bit smaller. When I hate to say this because nowadays this is not true, but Kyrie Irving was very good for the Celtics back then, and he helped set them up. And when they've become the stars themselves with the balls in their hand, they do have great games all the time, but they're just not consistent like they used to be on offense. And those are where the Boston Celtics problems are on offense.
I think people got jaded with that success, their early success, because this core has been together for so long, and they're so young still.
Right.
And a lot of players this age, they don't see this much success at this age. They usually just start to get into success at this age they're at.
Yeah, they're very young.
Well, so a nice comparable, because Nikola Jokic is now the greatest Denver Nuggets franchise player, which is actually a sad state of affairs. Because as an example, well, no. So here's the thing. Like you look at, say, Alex English, right, is one of the big names. And Alex English has 25 wins in the playoffs for the Denver Nuggets. And he's the best. He was like the franchise player for the Denver Nuggets. And you look at, say, LeBron James, and he's gonna hit like 180 this year, like 180 playoff wins. So that's what I'm saying, is I'm saying you look at the franchise players for the Celtics, for the Lakers, for the Golden State Warriors, for, of course, the Bulls, even for the Pistons. And you look at these greats and they're like 50 to 100 wins in the playoffs and this many points. And like Nikola Jokic is now soundly in first with like 30 wins for the Denver Nuggets. So we're getting to there, and people are bringing up like the stats on Tatum, and just he has been to like as many conference finals and finals as, say, the Chauncey Billups led Detroit Pistons. Like that's ridiculous. Like, and you're right, he is young. And actually that's a good thing, right? Like Jason Tatum, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic. We got a bunch of young stars in the league, which is a good place to be in.
and he's getting better. Sometimes his shot selection is a little questionable, but when he's locked in, he's better than his numbers when he's locked in. But that was one game. I don't want to fall victim to sample size, because at the beginning of the playoffs, they struggled with Atlanta, and I was like, yeah, I don't feel strong about this team. And then next round they go against Philly. I didn't think they were gonna beat Philly, but I definitely thought it was gonna be a struggle, and it ended up being a struggle. James Harden saved Embiid 2 games, and then I really think Jimmy's gonna take the soul away from Boston.
Ooh, I love it.
34
Yeah, I
points,
really
6 steals, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, 34 points on 25 shots.
and
Miami
he's the
Heat
real
up-
East MVP.
He is the East
Absolutely.
MVP, arguably a potential MVP. I mean, I'm absolutely elated that he ended up with Spoelstra and Pat Riley, just because it's so funny how many
And it's
bad.
like a rematch of the bubble.
Yeah, that's what everybody's been saying, which is true.
And he was so good that year. That same year, his
Yep.
minutes were low, but he was on that same tier, same level production wise. That same year, which is so funny. It's like deja vu. This finals is deja vu.
I think that bubble year is the year that he founded his coffee company. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but he's a coffee entrepreneur now.
Yeah, Embiid, not Embiid, but Jokic looked like he was on that coffee last night. He was moving so fast. Like, he was moving faster than Anthony Davis. He was
Yeah.
beating Anthony Davis down the floor. And that was one of the things they were like, that could be an advantage for AD, but AD looks slower than Jokic.
AD was looking tired against the Warriors, even though he's still able to dominate most of the time. I just wonder how
But
much AD has right now
it
in the
wasn't,
tank.
and it wasn't enough, and that's what I was hoping, because basically, so wrapping up the series, of course, like
Yeah, we're
the
hopping all
Lakers,
over.
yeah, which is fine. I mean, this is the playoff show, and that's good. But I'll say, let's wrap up. So the Lakers versus the Warriors, obviously kind of a bitter pill for you, Brian. And I mean, just the rough part, right, is the 3-1, the 3-1 hole was a bad place to be. And the reality I want to throw out to people is health. Like, health is just something that people underestimate so much that I really want to give front and center. And I was like giving it to Embiid as an example too, because he missed games with injuries as well. It's like, I think the Warriors take this series if Kevon Looney and Gary Payton were a little healthier. Now, another annoying reality is your team's insistence on sticking with Klay Thompson has damned them. And for as much as they might, and Wiggins got injured. What injured? Wiggins had like a rib that Kevon Looney said was like an 8 pain. Like, Kevon Looney had
Yeah,
the
he
same
played with
injury.
a broken rib in the last game.
And Kevon Looney's talking about it. Exactly. We were talking this little pre-show about like me being middle-aged and comparing like a middle-aged software developer to a 20-year-old basketball player. And like, I probably walk easier than some 20-year-olds that have put too much wear and tear on their body at this point, which is wild to think about. Yeah. So like, Andrew Wiggins is playing with a broken rib. Kevon Looney and Gary Payton are like throwing up on the sidelines. And I'm sorry, just Klay Thompson, that was a horrible re-signing, and you got unlucky with him getting injured. So they re-signed him after the playoffs with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson. They both got injured in the finals, and then you re-signed them, and Klay Thompson missed the next season. And it looked like Klay was going to be back, and he missed it again. And it's just like, I'm sorry, no. And if you replace Klay Thompson with an average player, the Warriors are in a much different spot. And towards the end, he was just shooting god awful. And it's like, I would love to give respect to the Warriors for sticking by Klay, but then, they let other good players like, Andre Iguodala, Gary Payton. They did course correct on both and bring them back, but it's just like, some of the stuff, 2 players, Dylan Brooks and Klay Thompson, I was like, as long as the teams play these players, I cannot believe that they are a threat. And I was right. So I'm always happy when I'm right, even though it sucks.
My
I
thing
still
is,
am right.
if you have to even mention Andre Iguodala, your team's in trouble.
He almost got in there.
Andre Iguodala is a coach now. He's like Udonis Haslem. They're coaches now.
Now
I
officially
guess-
retired. What a career.
I think what helped the Warriors win last year is because Jordan Poole got hot at a
Yes.
right time.
Yep.
and he's been bad all season.
Yep.
He's been horrible. Like Clay's been Clay, but Clay was like Clay last year. Like it is identical, but Poole was way better last year than he is this year. And I don't know if it was the punch, like it just kind of threw the chemistry off, but I don't know what happened.
Oh yeah, Brian.
I don't think
Brian,
I don't think he's gonna be there. I don't think he's gonna be there next year.
we've
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
had theories about that, and Brian, I think that one of the theories you're starting to bring, I'm gonna have to name it. You know what I do, Brian, right? Is I take brilliant things you say, I make sure you get credit, but I name them and then I just use them all the time. That's my MO. It's like, hey, the pick and roll's great. Just use the pick and roll over and over again. But I mean, you basically noticed that, Brown and Tatum on the Celtics. Who were the players? There were a couple of Toronto Raptors players that we liked when they were younger, and just as they got,
Yeah. Siakam
like,
and Anunoby both have not been as good as they were a few years ago when they had Kawhi, especially.
and yeah, I mean, to your
Siakam
point,
in particular.
yeah, to your point, you have these teams that had like a player that was getting more of the sorry to use the dreaded word of the usage, and for whatever reason, that player loses time, either leaves the team in Kyrie Irving's case, or gets reduced minutes in the case of Steph Curry, and you get this vacuum, and the players think they need to take it, and there
And the
is
team
nothing
is
about
asking them to do it as well.
yeah. 100%. And there's nothing about the usage curve that says a player can't shoot more and still be productive. In fact, Kyrie Irving and not Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry are two examples of this. What happens is if you have players that don't know how to do it the right way, that's when you start seeing stagnation. And I think that is always an important thing to keep an eye for when you're going, hey, this team was, what happened to the Warriors, the Raptors, the Celtics with these players that we really liked younger, and it's like, oh yeah, they thought it was their role to take on more of the load, and they didn't know how to do it correctly.
I've just been watching so many games and looking at so many stats during the pandemic. It's like I got all this in my head right now. It's just so hard to be that player like LeBron, Steph Curry, whoever you want to say, that can shoot that super high volume of really difficult shots and be efficient consistently. That's the key. Some of these players we've been talking about, they can do that high volume efficiency for a while at times, but they just can't do it consistently. And every team is saying we just got to have a guy that can do that, even if they're not capable of doing it, which almost nobody is. How many players can be like that in the league right now? Maybe we could find 5 or 10. I don't know, at most. Those players just don't exist, and teams just try to make them do it anyway, especially in the playoffs when everyone is so tired and you don't want to run your offense and run miles and miles like you did during the regular season. So, yeah, I think teams need to adjust their expectations for a lot of these players, especially Jordan Poole.
I was gonna add on to something Brian was just
Yeah.
talking about. And the hard thing about being the guy who has to take the shots, but also the added difficulty is drawing the attention.
That's right.
So being the Steph Curry's, being the LeBron's, you're the person that they're game planning against. When you're just some random guy who just goes 11 for 12 in a random game, you weren't a part of the game plan. But if you can do that in spite of the game plan, that's what makes the great players great.
Oh yeah, and I'm seeing what I'm trying to remember that some great had that, like, how do you guard Nikola Jokic, and they're like, I don't know,
You know,
attack him in the kidnap him before the game, like that's
And
the
look,
best
I
defensive strategy.
sympathize with coaches because you can't just be perfect and run your offense every play and it's going to work all the time, right? NBA defenses are so good and they spend so much time and money in preparation trying to beat your offense, and you just can't always do it, right? So you have to take shots in broken down situations out of isolation at times. You have to do it. It's just you need to be careful, right? You need to try to limit that as much as you can. And I think to Andrew's point, Tatum and Brown haven't done that. I think they've leaned into that hero ball style.
I'm gonna try and do a cheat and go through the 4 series with like a one sentencer, and welcome to tell me if I'm wrong, because we I think hit most of them, but I haven't got to the Nuggets. I do want to talk them a little. But Celtics 76ers, I really think Harden stole 2 games, closer series. Andrew, I love that you're skeptical about the Celtics, because then
Yeah, I
that
want to hear
means the
this.
Nuggets should be the favorite. So that's definitely good. That was my 2 cents, is like Harden stole 2 games. Embiid beat up otherwise than that. Heat versus Knicks, I think this is really weird. Brian, I've talked this a lot off air, how this is not a normal playoffs, how the Lakers and the Heat came in with completely different teams than they had during the regular season. They are not who we thought they were, right? Bam Adebayo playing as well as he is, as well as picking up Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry.
That's right.
Kyle Lowry is and by the way, I'm going to throw this out. They won tonight. Kyle Lowry, 6 for 12 from the field, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, only 1 turnover. What?
Something about
'Cause
those
I was
Villanova guards.
Oh yeah.
It's wild. I will throw out that Jalen Brunson did live up to expectation. I was very happy to see that. The Knicks should be happy. They have some room for improvement. There are some players that are overrated. Very Jalen Brown situation.
That Jalen Brunson Villanova team, Dre, they have like 4 or 5 players in the NBA now. Dante DiVincenzo is on the team. Eric
Mikal Bridges.
Pascal, Mikal Bridges. Someone else I'm not
They're
thinking
they're
of.
all
Can-
quality players minus Pascal. And
Yeah.
I think he was decent as a rookie for the Warriors that year.
Can I show my ignorance of college sports as we've already established, Brian? How far did that team go? Because that is a ridiculous squad.
They won a championship.
Oh, they should have. I mean, this is
I
what's
think
your
they
sense?
went-
they won 2.
They might have won 2 or gone to the Final Four 2 years in a row. Yeah, they were really good in college.
Yeah, they were really good.
Because that's getting up there with Mike Miller, Al Horford, Noah,
I think
Joakim Noah, all
Mike
on a
Miller.
squad.
I think Mike Miller was before that Joakim Noah Gators team.
Maybe.
Really, I thought they
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
got it. I
yeah.
could be wrong.
Mike Miller was already in the NBA.
All right, yeah. But I mean,
He was a rookie of the year for the Orlando Magic. And then he's Paulo Banchero's agent who won rookie of the year for the same team.
Amazing.
2 very divergent rookies of the year, where I would say Mike Miller deserved his rookie of the year, albeit I seem to recall
Right.
that was a weak rookie year. Deserved it. All-time underrated. Great. He won a title with the Heat, right? He was a great player with them. Right?
Yep.
He ended up there.
He did.
Loved Mike Miller. He made it to the Denver Nuggets, and I was so excited. And he was just like, as with a lot of greats that made it to Denver, just like a year past where I wanted him. But he did make it up on Denver and was just amazing. So, just absolutely love him. I have no fault about is it Banchero or I mess up the pronunciation?
Banchero, yeah.
Banchero. I have no complaints about him winning.
It was
Rookie of the Year.
typical. It was typical.
I respect it and understand it. And if you are drafted by a horrible team that's not going anywhere, shoot away, shoot away, shoot away. Win as many scoring titles, rookie of the year, whatever is as you can. But oh my, us, Kessler. Kessler is our rookie of the year around here.
There we go.
Right. I was gonna ask, has there ever been a rookie to put up those kind of numbers? When's the last time a rookie put up that type of production? When's the last time? What, Shaq or Tim Duncan or something?
No, I mean, we've seen it. I mean, Ben Simmons did it. I think where it's rare, and admittedly Utah tanked this away, it is super rare to see a hyper productive rookie on like a playoff squad. And had the Jazz not then gone and traded away like Mike Conley and Vanderbilt, who both helped their teams to the playoffs, had they not done that, they would have been a 7th or 8th seed in the playoffs.
Danny Ainge went in there and said, "Okay, we're going to tank this year." A few months later, I said we're going to tank this year.
And then what was it? Markkanen, 100% most he won most improved, and I agreed. I was like, absolutely. And
He came out of
just-
nowhere.
I wasn't mad at that pick.
No, it was the right pick. It's 100% the right pick. But what I was going to say is, if you recall, right after the trade deadline, they trade away 2 of their good players. Like Danny Ainge is like, I said we're tanking, and Markkanen's like, no, and put up like a 50-point performance. Just, like even Markkanen was just playing too good. So that
They must
that
have
Jazz-
not realized Vanderbilt was good when they traded for him. That's what I think happened.
Obviously, nobody did, which is just freaking wild.
Except for the Lakers, except for Pelinka and Ham.
I'm loving it, although they're not playing him because they're scared that
I
they're
was
going
gonna
with a
say.
different strategy against the Nuggets, and I hope someone tweeted at me today and was like, "Hey, maybe they should be playing Vanderbilt more." And I was like, "Shh, wait till the series is over. Save your comments till the end. I don't want." I did want to throw out about Denver versus Phoenix. Something really wild, and this speaks so much to the reputation of Kevin Durant. Is this was not supposed to be close, right? Number 1 seed beating the number 4 seed. And don't forget, Nikola Jokic put up an amazing 50-point. Like, we've had like 4 ridiculous 50-point performances in this playoffs, with, as noted, Jason Tatum's being the best of them. Most series, this is over in 4 or 5. So it was funny at the end of it. Obviously, did they lose a coach too? Phoenix is kind of in a free fall.
Yeah, they hired fired Monty Williams, who will
Yes.
probably get a new job for sure, I think.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. They're 2 years away from the NBA Finals, so that was already leaving my head. It was so wild. I was like, Chris Paul's talking about like being addicted to the finals. Like, wait, you haven't made the finals? Like, oh yeah, you did. I forgot about that.
Dre, I think it's the new owner there.
Right.
He just wants to clean house, and he wants his own guy. Like, Monty Williams is part of the old regime.
I forgot that. Did we bring this up on the show? The ridiculousness of the new owner,
Yeah, we
and
did.
his WWE. That was just.
I was so pissed about that.
Yeah, just hilarious stuff. It's funny though, between you and me though.
It was funny.
It was fun.
I gave it a little more respect though, where I kind of just made the note that I understand, like, trying to win, like,
He's
and
playing to win.
like, same thing with flopping, right? I completely respect not liking flopping, but then I also respect people that flop.
That's fair.
I don't respect flopping.
I don't either. But
'Cause
I
it's like,
understand your opinion.
Yeah. But the whole the Ishbia thing was very Mark Cuban. It seemed like something
Yeah.
Mark Cuban would do.
Just start talking on the sideline.
And
I
I
was
don't
gonna
really
say-
care for Mark Cuban. I'm in the Dallas area. I live in the Dallas area, and I'm just not. I don't like Cuban.
We brought this up a lot, and there is something really weird about the Mavericks just in general. And I don't know what it is. And it is one of those where, I mean, like, at this point, Jalen Brunson, for me, I just get to laugh. It's like, from the team that brought you Steve Nash comes Jalen Brunson. Like, really? Like, how many times are you going to do this?
If I was Luka, I would run.
Yeah. But it's money. I mean, the NBA has basically made it so. I didn't understand Dirk. I didn't understand Dirk taking the pay cuts to stay around, but I understand Luka staying around for the Supermax. That makes sense to me. But yeah, to wrap them on the Nuggets, like, I actually was wicked impressed by the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker included. And just, it was funny to me that at the end of the day, I thought this series should not have been as close as it was, a 4-2 win, with how well the Nuggets were playing. And so it's really funny to me, the number of people that both thought the Phoenix Suns with Kevin Durant, similar situation to Embiid being injured, thought he was going to just like beat the better team with, like, Denver Nuggets home court is ridiculous. I think there's some stat that, like, when Jokic plays, they're like 21-1. So it's just like, I don't know what world you thought that Denver with the home court with Nikola Jokic healthy, the Phoenix Suns had any chance, and they actually did amazing. Like, mad props to the Suns, and very much like Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker's a player that I'm just like, I used to bash you a lot. I have nothing to stand. He had an amazing playoffs.
Fake trade. Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, or Devin Booker.
Sold. Do it.
That'd be
Do it.
amazing. That'd be amazing.
Because he fits on Golden State.
Yeah.
I don't think Phoenix is gonna win anything, mainly because Ayton, whatever that is, because for one, they let the coach go, because I think there was some type of issue with him and Monty. And yeah, when your big man is only grabbing 4 rebounds,
That's a problem.
that's a problem.
Do
you just paid all of this money to at the same time.
Actually,
He was so good in the finals against Milwaukee. So good. That seems like it's so far ago. We've forgotten that they were even in the finals.
Yeah, like I said, I was going to say, in your dream scenario, do you throw Ayton and Booker for, like, everybody on the Warriors except for Steph Curry?
If I take Ayton, then I'm like, okay, but you got to take Wiggins.
Oh,
I don't hate Wiggins. I mean, I wouldn't if
He's
you had.
expensive. He's expensive. It's the Jaylen Brown thing.
He's cheaper
Yeah.
than he seems though, because his salary is weird because it's actually descending, not ascending. So he made
Oh,
30 million this year, but he's going to be making like 23 million next year and then
oh, that's
24 the
not
year
bad.
after that. So yeah, I'm okay with his deal. I'd be fine with trading him in a bigger deal, but I'd be fine with keeping him too. Because when he was healthy last year in the playoffs, he played really well. And of course, like you were saying, he was playing hurt this year. And of course, he also missed most of the year, with his family. So he was rusty as well.
I think you could save him for like if you were gonna trade him. I think you could say like I think you could pry. Sorry, Brian, that we're ending up in like fantasy land about
Let's hear
rebuilding
it.
the Warriors.
Let's
But
hear
I
it.
think I think you could get well. You're not getting Booker. Okay, Chris Paul, Aiton. I think you could do like Clay and Poole for Chris Paul and Aiton. I
Okay,
think
it
that
won't
could.
happen for two reasons. Number one, they won't trade inside the same conference division. I'm sorry. Number two, they won't play Chris Paul and Steph Curry together. There's no way.
Why not? Let's
I think I would be down for it, but I don't think they will. I don't think they
I
will.
mean, yeah,
I
obviously
don't
it's
think
not.
Curry. I don't secretly. I don't think Curry would like it.
That's right. That's right.
I think it could be amazing. All right. Well, here's the good news. We now have a super amazing sample size, and I am told that the Nuggets lost last night. They should treat this as a spiritual loss. So for
Because
those that
they
don't
gave up a
know,
comeback.
the Denver Nuggets are up 1-0, and the Miami Heat are up 1-0. So let's get the small sample size. I'm excited. I need either the Heat to come out of the East or the Heat to wear down the Celtics. I need them to do one of the two, so they're doing their job. Denver Nuggets played like perfect bad, like a 20-point lead going into the second half. They even had, I think, like close to a 20-point lead going into the fourth. And then, I wasn't able to watch this live, which bummed me out, but the Lakers did, mount a comeback. But I'm sorry, anybody that knows anything about NBA playoffs that is ever worried about a win is just wrong. Let's not forget the Celtics, the 2008 Celtics that we talked at the top of the show. They went to a game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks and still managed to come back. Right. We have had your Warriors as an example. We're down almost, well, that's a bad example, but almost, Brian, almost. So I'm just saying, like, a win is a win is a win, right? Like you can't feel bad when you win, and it's already in the books. Like this isn't like the regular season where it normalizes. So, and as mentioned, I'm less worried because I think not Andrew Wiggins. I think Anthony Davis and LeBron James have 3 good games each in this series. And I think they've spent one and it wasn't a loss. So I'm happy for where that looks for the Nuggets. And same point, Nuggets have home court. I think if the Nuggets just keep winning on home court, and the only scary part about that is, right, is they will, right, for anybody but the Heat, they lose home court in the finals, I believe.
Okay. Can I play devil's advocate for the Lakers?
Let's go for it.
Okay. From the beginning of the playoffs, when I heard that Steven Adams and Brandon Clark went down in the
Yep.
Memphis series, I said, this is a window for LeBron to get to the Western Conference Finals. And if the closer LeBron gets to a championship opportunity, he just goes into a different mode. But on the flip side, I've been watching LeBron his whole career. What I was going to say was that when LeBron feels like he's about to lose, he checks out. So if Denver gets ahead of LeBron, they're probably going to sweep.
I like this. Okay, so I'm liking it. We can stop.
If it goes on longer, watch out for LeBron.
So game 3 is the most important one, maybe. The first home game for the
I
Lakers.
say game 2.
Game 2, they need a road win.
You want to get on Denver early.
You have to. And I mean, the Nuggets, one thing that has made me happy is we couple games which is awesome to have that. There was this brief window, and I'm so happy we get to see it, and I hope it finishes. There's this brief window with Denver Nuggets traded for Aaron Gordon. Brian, I don't remember, back in the day, you thought Aaron Gordon should be Rookie of the Year. And of course, Aaron Gordon, one of the most deserving dunk champions that does not have a slam dunk
That's right.
champion ring. Just Brett,
I will say it was number 1 and 2, though. Oh, there's been some good dunkers lately.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so you were on Aaron Gordon from the get, and I think like he was just kind of I've noticed the
I
oddity
gave
that
up
people
on him a long time ago, though. So for him to come back and be so strong, it's very interesting. He's looked great on defense.
Well, what's wild, right, is what happened with him is we loved him as a small forward. He started getting played as a stretch four. The exact same thing we're saying about like Jaylen Brown. He turns into like an average stretch four, and we're like, that's great. And now he's like a
I think
defensive
they've got
minded.
Tatum playing the stretch 4, and then Green's playing with 2 and 3. But same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
No. I'm saying Aaron Gordon. So I was saying Aaron Gordon was this player that got turned into a stretch four. And that's where we kind of gave up on him. We were like, okay, he's fine, but he's not a star. Like he looked like a star when he was a small forward as a rookie. When he gets turned into a stretch four, we're like, he's a good player, but that's who he is, and he's not going to change. And now he's still a four, but he's like a defensive-minded, lockdown, amazing four, and just plays great. And by the way, absolutely snubbed on the All-Star game. Absolutely, when we factor in, so there might be one or two. He was a deserving power forward for the All-Star game for the reserve. There might have been one or two more deserving slightly, but when you factor in the record and the normal stuff that goes up, he absolutely should have been in the All-Star reserves this year. I would have given him an All-NBA third team just with how well Denver did. So just absolutely snub player, but playing great. We haven't seen like all four go at the same time, which is good. All four being Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. When that core originally got constructed, I said the Nuggets are going to win a title this year. And just like one by one, like a horror movie, they just all got injured, right? Jamal Murray missed almost 2 years. Michael Porter Jr. got injured in the playoffs. Aaron Gordon, was on and off. So it's just like the fact that this core gets a chance to win a title, I am so excited about. And like that first game, Aaron Gordon didn't need to be great, and we still won. And so that's kind of my excitement to where we're at least against the Lakers, is like the Nuggets have one of the strongest top 6 in the NBA playoffs right now if the Celtics insist on giving Al Horford major minutes, and we don't need them all to go off, which is just like a perfect place to be.
Yeah. Aaron Gordon kind of reminds you of Sean Marion.
I love it.
Oh,
Love
I like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Not a great
right,
shooter,
yeah.
but can be efficient at times, right? It's interesting.
Sean Marion was decent at one point. I remember the 2K, he had like the ugliest damn shot, and I could not see.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a
his
hard
shot
release.
mechanics are legendary. Along with
It was a
people
hard
like
release.
Sam Perkins, who put the ball behind his head. Like, there's been some people with weird shots that are very efficient over the years. It's more
That is
difficult to make a weird shot repeatable, but if you're good enough, you can do it. Rick Barry's underhand free throws, it's wild that he was able to make those. That's so hard to do.
I have no idea what Sean Marion did in 06, then in 08, where he shot 59.4 and 57. And I think it was something with D'Antoni, because he had it on Phoenix, but like pre-D'Antoni Phoenix, his shooting wasn't great, right? All of his stats came from other stuff. This is Sean Marion. And even when he was really productive, for Dallas and Cleveland, he made it to the finals with Cleveland in 2015, didn't win, but like Sean Marion just, he did everything else well, but could not shoot. So I
Did he win a championship with Dallas? I thought he won one with Dallas.
2011,
Yep.
Yeah, he was
it
there.
was
Against Miami when
Yep.
LeBron kind of checked out.
Tyson
Dwayne Wade got
Chandler
injured.
was also on that team. There was like some real good players that finally got a ring on that team.
But that's one of those examples of LeBron checking out, because that was so strange watching
That's
it.
right.
It was strange. It was so strange.
Wait, was that what's his name? The little guy on the Heat. Did he go off that year, or was that a different year? You know what I'm talking about? Is it
for
Carlos Arroyo or
Dallas.
someone else?
For
JJ
Dallas.
Barea, right?
JJ Barea. I'm sorry, I'm getting the little guys mixed up. I apologize.
Yeah, JJ Barea and Mark Cuban was talking about the coverages and the crap like that. I was just like, his name's LeBron James. If he wants to do something, he's gonna do it.
Man, I want to answer your question from earlier, which is what I thought about the Warriors versus Lakers. So what you said, that the Warriors could have won with better health. I'm not saying that's not true. It's hard to talk about alternate universes, but just how I felt leading up to that series and during, I felt like the Lakers were way better than the Warriors in general. Even with better health, they were kind of blowing them out in a lot of those games. And I think the Lakers are pretty good and do have a chance against the Nuggets.
That's scary because it could make me look ridiculous. Because at the start of the playoffs, I was just like, I don't think the Lakers can stay healthy enough to make the finals. And if the
That's the
Nuggets don't,
problem. The wheels can come off at any time with the Lakers' health because all those guys are playing hurt right now.
yeah. So I just like, I think I like Andrew's point. So I think the Nuggets, like, same point. I heard a lot of people note this that first game. I hope it actually like scares them. It scares the Nuggets and be like, okay, don't let up the gas. So
Mm.
like in game 2, if you're up 20 going into the half, be up 50. You know, just absolutely stomp them. Do not give them a chance. And by the way, let's throw this out. RIP to a great coach, although he's still front office for the Boston Celtics, right? Brad Stevens.
Right.
That was a secret sauce of the Celtics, I think 3 or 4 years ago, was they just would not give up in lost games. And people really do miss that a 20-point lead in the NBA is actually not as safe as you think. In the era of three ball,
Yeah.
that's, four made threes and 4 threes and a turnover, and you're, within striking distance. And that can happen in a minute. And in fact, it was funny as we started this show, and as you both saw, I put on the Celtics game in the background. They scored 7 points in the fourth quarter to, almost make it a series. They were down by 12 going into the fourth, and it was a 5-point game within the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, especially if you have a good shooting team like Golden State, you're never out of a game.
Yeah,
They had some
absolutely.
games like that this year and in the playoffs as well. It's fun to watch when it works.
But it's also not fun to watch when they're not going in.
Yeah.
I can remember a couple of games when they played the Kings, and those were games where they would get blown out because Clay and Jordan Poole couldn't hit the side of the backboard.
He's gotten rolled over on by the Warriors fans now. They have turned on him. I used to be a Poole hater, but now I feel like the other fans hate him more than me. So I would feel bad for him if it weren't for his bad shot selection.
Yeah, it's fair. I am okay. Now let's go mean before we hit Wembanyama. Throw this out to you again, Andrew. I really loved your 2-sided take on the Nuggets series. So either Nuggets and are you? Let me see if I can say this. Nuggets in 4, Lakers in 7. Is that your prediction?
No.
Putting words in your mouth. Sorry.
I want to say if I had to bet on it, Nuggets in 5.
Oh, but I was asking like 2 tails because like Arturo Galetti does this.
Oh,
right,
if we're gonna do that, I would lean closer to Lakers in 7.
So yeah. So basically, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like of the bucket,
I would
of the
lean
bucket.
closer. Yeah. Just because LeBron, I would just have to kind of put a little respect on LeBron a little bit, even though that age, I don't feel so sure about a game 7. I don't feel like this is a game 7 series. Just the altitude, the ages, the injury risk.
Against
I
the
feel like I'm
Warriors.
talking myself into a sweep. I feel like I'm talking myself into a sweep.
No, but against the Warriors, Dre, LeBron was kind of biding his time and giving the ball to Davis a lot more earlier in the series. Then game 6, when it was time to win, he just dropped the hammer on the Warriors because he did not want to go back to Golden State for game 7.
Yeah. All right. Now, mean side to do this again then. So, and by the way, you've named the show. Sorry, Andrew. I've named the show. I cheated. I put words in your mouth. But I think you said your prediction is Nuggets in 5, which I love. But Nuggets in 4 or Lakers in 7 is the title of the show. Unless our Wembanyama talk really blows me away, which I don't think it will. Not to diss us, but I really love this playoff talk. Now let's talk the Heat versus the Celtics. So, Andrew, are the Heat for real? Or do the Celtics come back? And you already said you were kind of thinking the Celtics might be a little inflated.
I'm taking the Heat in 6.
Love
And
it.
that's just off the strength of Hemi. We call him Hemi. We don't call him Jimmy. We call him Hemi.
That's right.
Yeah, Hemi Butler.
He is him.
Good.
He is him.
He's the best player in the series, right? So maybe the Celtics have a more talented roster overall, but he's the best player.
Yeah, it's not even.
Robert Williams is not coming out of that tunnel.
No.
Well, he did, but like the easy thing. So like tonight's game as an example, Jimmy Butler, 43 minutes, 10 seconds. Rob Williams the third, 25 minutes, 30. And I mean, that was the same thing that happened against the Warriors. You mentioned Ben Guest. Ben was actually right and wrong. So Ben's argument last year was Gary Payton II and Otto Porter were going to come back healthy. Of course, you got Steph Curry. We love Steph Curry. And Kevon Looney was playing out of his mind and continued to play out of his mind, right? So you have those four players are going to make the series. And then he argued on the flip side, right? Boston was really beat up, right? Marcus Smart said he was like feeling tingles, I think, in his foot or arm. I forget. He got really beat up. And Rob Williams looked injured. Rob Williams actually looked healthier than we thought. But the flip side was Gary Payton and Otto Porter were healthy. We're back 100% because unlike Celtics, who playing and go straight to the finals, the Warriors got to rest up and get their players a little healthy. And it's kind of the exact same thing. It's like, I think Rob Williams is the same level as Jimmy Butler. I know people look at me like I'm crazy for saying that. You two won't, but other people.
They're different types of players, right? That's the reason why.
But there is a huge difference. This was the LeBron James playoff mode too, right? There is a huge difference between 43 minutes of your star and 25 minutes of your star. And Jimmy Butler is a Thibodeau guy, and he's tasted the finals, and he wants to go back. And I'm forgetting, was it which year did he say Tobias Harris over me to the 76ers? Because I'm sad that the Heat didn't.
Was that the bubble year?
Might have been. I'm sad Jimmy Butler didn't get to get
such
revenge.
Such a sick burn.
But I'm so sad he didn't get to get revenge on the 76ers this year. But it is awesome that Jimmy Butler has outperformed the 76ers just like routinely now at this point.
But it's funny. I want to say it was kind of like one of those ESPN things, like the infographics that they put up. And it was since Jimmy's joined the Heat, he's been to 2 conference finals, and the teams he's left haven't been to 1. So that was Minnesota, Philly,
Chicago,
and Chicago. He's been.
Yeah. It was 100% like when the Cleveland Cavaliers, when Gilbert gave like the Comic Sans letter to LeBron James, and LeBron James is like, okay, well, you're going to be one of the worst teams in the league and win like 3 number 1 picks, and I'm going to win 2 titles in 4 years and make 4 consecutive finals, and then come save you. So that was kind of funny. Brian, going to put you on the spot too.
Let's
so
do
we got Heat in 6. What do you think?
Hey, I'll copy Andrew and say Heat in 6. That's just the most likely outcome now that they're up 1-0, I think.
Because they do have
I don't see the Heat. I don't see the Heat sweeping or just putting them out in 5. Because the Heat, how many of the games did they go against New York?
That was only 5. Oh, it was 6. Okay. It
was 6, right?
There was a Jalen Brunson game.
I thought. I went a little bit than I thought.
It didn't seem that close.
New York was a good feeling story, but I didn't think they weren't going to. I didn't think they were going to get past the second round.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised they beat Cleveland, to be honest.
Cleveland was, it's
that
funny
because
as much of a hater as I am on certain players, you see, I changed my tune really quick. So 2 big ones: Donovan Mitchell, and how am I dropping his name? Apologies, Devin Booker. There we go. But Donovan Mitchell, during the bubble year and even the year after, has been a really good playoff player for the Utah Jazz. And so when he made it to Cleveland, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good year. And so it even shocked me when people were like questioning the playoffs. So I was not worried about Cleveland in the slightest. Now, the funny thing, Brian, I don't feel bad about this take. Like, I was nice to Cleveland where I said it was really nice of them to let Kevin Love go to a team where he was going to get a bigger role in a contract year, right? Because I think Kevin Love for sure has upped his contract value. I think he'll get like a mid-level exception, 10 to 15 million. Funny question: who's going to get more next year? Russell Westbrook?
Isn't the mid-level exception a lot higher than that?
It might be now. Yeah, you're right.
I'm not sure, but
yeah,
I take your point. Your point's still correct.
Yeah, but yeah, basically, so Cleveland was like, we're not going to need you because you're the third guy. You're the second or third guy off the bench. We have like they 2 towers it. I love it. They could have used him. It's the frustrating part. But I still respect that they let him go to Miami. But I was really shocked at how bad Cleveland played. And part of that was Donovan Mitchell, and that just seems sample sizey to me, because in his playoff career up until this year, he was much better.
Yeah. And then I'm hearing talk that they need to pick one of the bigs. And I was like, the bigs weren't the problem.
No.
But I got a feeling that's what they're going to do.
It's
It's
why they
Mm,
can run it. They could just run it back. They have a good squad. They did really good.
if they want to send Jared Allen over to the Warriors, be okay with that. Be okay with that.
Andrew Wiggins for
they need
Jared
more
Allen, right?
shooting. They
Yeah.
need more shooting. I will say they need more shooting, but I can say that about all teams.
Yeah.
Playing three bigs like they did last year was too much, I think. But playing the two, Allen and Mobley, that's really good. Their defense was so good with those two. They got to keep them both. Mobley can guard the perimeter. That'd be a mistake.
Okay. Now on Miami Boston, I do think I'm going to have to say Boston in 7. And I'm going to laugh when it's just like Boston in 5 if they roll them over. But I mean, the real question is, do we think Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry can keep this up? And if they can, I think Miami can take. They got home court now, basically, right? So this is a series, and I mean, the other thing we talked about is Al Horford. The real interesting question will be if the Celtics pull the plug on Al Horford, I can see a turnaround, but I don't know if they will because he got 32 minutes this game, 7 points on 8 shots, only 6 rebounds, which isn't horrible, but 6 rebounds from your power forward in 32 minutes is not good. 3 steals, which I'll give it to, but just yeah, if and like I said, my sincere mean hope for the Nuggets is even if Boston takes us, that Al Horford and Rob Williams just lose everything in the tank. All right, with apologies, we've all said we don't. Well, actually, I've become the most invested. Don't care much, but this the topic we'll end on is the San Antonio Spurs are back in the number 1, and I don't have it next to me. It just bums me out. I have multiple of these. I have multiple David Robinson rookie card from the 1989-1990 Hoops collection. That's the other thing I've been doing on this channel, Brian, is pack breaking. So this is the first number 1 pick since Tim Duncan, the storied franchise, got it. We talked a lot about this pre-show. You and me, Brian, with myself being more dour, have been rougher on Wembanyama, basically saying his shooting numbers, his rebounding numbers in the the Jeep Euro something league for France have not been amazing. I'll look that up in Real GM. And I was kind of starting to say I've changed my tune. I'm curious if you and I are going to switch sides a little there. Like I could see him with Popovich potentially being a good player.
Yeah, I just am a big fan of his in general. maybe not as big as everyone. Maybe I don't know if he's the biggest, most hype player since LeBron, if he should be or not. But it's hard not to watch that guy play and not be excited. I guess I'll put it that way.
I'm gonna say this that I hope he succeeds so we can get away from the whole like everybody trying to be small ball Golden State Warriors.
Yes.
Because Draymond Green is that special. And for you to try to recreate that is gonna be hard. So historically, size has won championships. And by size, big men doing big things. So rebounding, blocking shots, high percentage shots, which Vic is kind of like Porzingis. He's reminding me of Porzingis. He's a big guard. I heard one of the guys on TV talk about don't look at him as a big man, look at him more as a big guard. I was like, that's a red flag. I don't like the
Yeah, it
sound
is
of
a
that.
red flag. He's got to be a big man or at least a Evan Mobley type of power forward if he's going to succeed, in my opinion. Yeah.
It sounds like Porzingis box score with 4 rebounds at the end of the game, and he's played 38 minutes.
Oop.
But he has more 3 attempts than rebounds.
Well, to
That's
that point, one thing that started to make me happy because I have followed his like game logs, and I did write a post way back in the day when I was still writing it, like nerdnumbers.substack.com. I might go back to it, but stuff like this, Brian, is much more fun. I much prefer podcasting and streaming to that. But in his like at the end, like the end of the season, for the Jeep Elite is the league that he is in. So for that though, he did get a bunch of games that had like high rebounds where he got 15 rebounds, 17 rebounds, 10 rebounds, 15 rebounds, 11. That's what I like to see. Myself and Andrew pre-show are both talking about just how bad he is at 3. His last 3 games, let's see. So I'm going to try and do a count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In in 9 of his last 10 games, he was horrible from 3 with only one of them being good, and his last 2, he missed 5 in both. Like, he just needs to stop, like, to the big man doing big man things, 100% agree, and the slight difference, like a good player comparable is Andrea Bargnani, who
Oh
same
yeah, I
idea.
was thinking about that one too.
People were like, "Andrea Bargnani's not a big, he's a shooting guard." And you're like, "Okay, well, if we compare him to a shooting guard, he's still terrible, so what are you even doing?" So, like, 1, you're using your center position for a shooting guard, which would kind of be like using your designated hitter and putting a pitcher in there, like, and not Otani, which would be absurd. And 2, they're bad, right? So it's like, yeah, that's kind of what they were doing with Andrea Bargnani. I can see Wembanyama being a good big man. He has the skills to do it. We're starting to see that. And one thing that makes me happy about Popovich being a coach, and like he has been a coach that like has been against threes and stuff. I could see it, but the one question we kind of had pre-show was like attitude clash. Like if we're going to get another LaMarcus Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard situation where you have these
DeMar
younger
DeRozan.
DeMar DeRozan, you have these younger new stars from a newer generation that are like, this old coach just wants me to have respect for him, and no, that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, because I remember DeJounte Murray, he was Matt Barnes' podcast, and he was talking about some of the mind games Pop would play, and a lot of players don't take well to that type of stuff. So it'll be interesting just to see how this experiment goes, because I feel like it is an experiment. Him and his whole camp, they were rooting for him to go to the Spurs.
Oh, because
Of
of
the
the France connection.
And the development, the track record with the development with young players.
Mm.
So they're open to, there was the place they wanted to go to, because there was even a clip of him like almost fist pumping the thought of him not going to the Houston Rockets, which, okay, I was like, okay. He has a little awareness, because I could only imagine him on the Rockets wishing he was just back in France.
He's going to learn from James Harden on the Rockets.
The only thing right now I feel like that would translate initially is his defense.
Yeah.
Because he has that switchability, that flex, that hip flexibility for him to be able to guard on the perimeter, being able to roam around like Anthony Davis. He blocks shots that I like. He's probably going to be a top 5 shot blocker next year.
That
That would be-
Porzingis comparison, though, that's really gotten to me, because Porzingis is a guy who blocks shots but doesn't rebound, or, not always great on switching and stuff like that. So, but I agree with your last point more, though. I do think he's going to be a dominant shot blocker right away, just based on his height alone. Like Sean Bradley, he's not quite Sean Bradley size, but that guy couldn't play basketball at all, but he blocked a million shots.
I also think Pop is about to retire soon. So I don't know if they're trying to be good now or they're just trying to be a young team. Because if they're trying to be a young team, they're not going to be competitive for a while, because they don't have anybody on that team that's even a starting caliber player.
The Spurs are not spending any money at all. Their most expensive player last season is making $20 million, which for old schoolers like us sounds like a lot, but as Brian even pointed out,
Keldon Johnson.
Keldon Johnson, right, is the one. And what's wild, and this really feeds conspiracy theories, is that if you look at Keldon Johnson, he's not great. He was terrible last season. He was reasonable in really, really limited minutes as a rookie. And in his sophomore and junior year was basically just an average small forward. And small forward is like the middle positions. Like he was just like an average player at the average position, and he is making average money. So like across the board, no problem. Now this last year, he plays 2,000 minutes and he is terrible. And what happened, so this kind of makes me happy to kind of what Brian said before, he was just given 6 more shots a game. And so instead of doing like he was like a good small forward doing good small forward things. It almost looked like Pop was just like, shoot away, do whatever you want. And so instead of rebounding and doing good stuff, he just shot a lot. So now I believe if you get a couple of good players in there, he's going to go back up. Because one of the things I have a question for about a 20-win team, I got some flack for this take, is, okay, let's assume sky's the limit. Victor Wembanyama Wembanyama. That is
You
not a
just go
hard name.
Wemby. That's what people do a
Wemby,
shortcut.
the
You go
cheat.
Wemby.
Wemby at Wimbledon. But anyway, what I was going to say is, even if he comes in as a star, even if he pulls the Ben Simmons rookie year trick and comes in and produces like 15 wins produced as a rookie, that only gives you about 10 above an average starter, is what I was saying. And people were kind of confused by that, where I was saying, like, a star player, even a Nikola Jokic, if you get an average center, Nikola Jokic gains your team in the modern NBA 12 wins. And that's not bad, right? You put a Nikola Jokic on an average squad, you turn him from a mediocre squad to a contender immediately. But even if Victor does that, like, are they going to be able to compete? They only won 20 games last season. And one of the biggest tells I saw was, I was like, what the heck happened to Keldon Johnson? And I do wonder about how, I mean, the Spurs were obviously tanking, and I wonder how clever they were able to be about it, because of all the teams, don't forget, back in the day, they got fined for like benching their starters, for benching, the big three on like back-to-backs. Of all the teams that understand the rules about like not getting in trouble for what other teams do, like Dallas, right? When Dallas is like intentionally resting their starters at the end of the season to miss the play-in series. I think San Antonio understands. So I think San Antonio might be like a 30-35 squad getting a top rookie pick with a ton of cap space to attract another star if they want.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe they try to make
Yeah,
trades.
that's
Their talent's
like
really
that's-
bad, I think.
I feel like that's high. I feel like that's high.
They need at least another star, and
But
for
I'm saying-
Wembanyama to be a star.
I'm saying that they're not spending any money too, is the thing. And so I'm saying,
You're saying best case scenario, if Wembanyama it meets the height, 35 is their ceiling, basically.
I could see them being a 40-win team next year if he meets the hype and they get someone. I mean, letting DeJounte Murray walk, that was a red flag to me, because it does get really weird when you see went and played really well for the Hawks too, for what it's worth. You see them walk out the door and they're like, we didn't like their attitude. And I'm like, I'm sorry, if you don't like players' attitude, that's not the league. A lot. I mean, like, I get it. I get that you get Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I'm aware of the stupid clip of him, but I don't give much credit to that. Embiid and Giannis, they were in a bad mood after a bad loss, and the media like asked him. I don't think they tricked him, but I think it's like, when you're upset and someone asks you to talk, you might ramble and say some stuff you would otherwise regret, and that happened. But I mean, you don't get a lot of players that are that talented and have no ego in the NBA, and it's kind of a ridiculous assumption to say like, we didn't need that top player on our team because he had an ego. I'm like, well, that's most of them. Like, there's a few Giannis's, a few Jokic's, but
That might have been
most of them
true,
aren't.
Dre, but I think it was more about tanking.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and then asking a guy like Giannis, the way he grew up, is he a failure?
Seriously.
He doesn't look at life like that. He was like basically living on the street, selling things, and he was like, no, he just thought that was a absurd question.
He was so mad. I'm so proud of him as a Wisconsinner, because he was so like, he was even being, he was like, I'm sorry, I know, like, it was just, it was really making me laugh towards the end of that rant. And Embiid just stuck Embiid said all the right thing at the beginning and then stuck his foot in his mouth at the end, and I was just like, this is comedy gold. But I don't. Yeah, they both had a bad day, and you have to sit in front of a bunch of reporters on a bad day and have them ask you, it's like, what do you want me to say? It's like, yeah, I had a bad game. And it's like, I could have had a good game. I've had good games. I've had good games in must-win situations. So,
But yeah, my prediction is I don't think the Spurs even sniff the play-in next season.
if they don't get another player, they don't have enough. Like, we actually agree on that. And so that's what I'm saying is, they are in a really good cap situation, and they have a lot of money. Like, Keldon Johnson is only, it sounds weird to say it, he is their top player, only making $20 million. And at first I was like, he was terrible. Why are they paying him even that? And I went, he's worth $20 million if he plays like he's supposed to as a fourth-year player with that progression. So I'm curious, like, if he looks a lot better next season, I'm like, interesting. I'm wondering if Popovich was just like, hey, by the way, if you up your points per game by this happens, and you're a 40% shooter from this spot on the court, so I'm going to give you leeway to shoot 3 more of those a game. It's going to cost us games, but you're going to get more points per game, and it's going to make you look better. I wouldn't, at this point, like, any
I've been
team would
hearing a
have.
lot of talk about them going after Fred VanVleet, which that'll be interesting, point guard wise.
Interesting. Let me see how he's been doing because he's again he might be one of those. He's like fine, but I think in the
He had an
past
off
he's
year a
been better,
little
right?
bit, but yeah, he might
Yeah,
be
he had
fully
enough
out.
here.
That'd be a good one. I
You
mean,
know who I
if you,
like in the Spurs though? Devin Vassell. He's kind of young, hasn't been great yet, but I think he's one guy there that could be good.
I
But yeah,
like it.
there's not a lot.
But my thing is that division they're in isn't the best division. So
It's a good
who
point.
else is I know Houston's in that division. They're gonna be bad. Dallas is gonna be decent.
isn't it
Um,
Memphis and OKC? OKC has been looking scary,
I was
actually.
gonna
Yeah.
say OKC is the young team that everyone's talking about that actually is gonna be pretty good next year because Chet didn't even play last year.
Yep.
And
Don't
we
sleep
got
on
we got our
Chet.
boy
Chet's
Shea.
gonna be really good.
Yeah, we're gonna have
All
two
right.
really tall, skinny guys join the league next year. It's gonna be awesome.
And
Bring
I
back the
remember
big
watching
man.
them play against each other. Vic and Chet play against each other at the U19s and the championship, and USA
That's
beat
right.
France. And
That's right.
Vic was very pissed off. Like he took that to heart. And but he had a really good game. And he was like 16 or 17. He was going head to head against Chet, and he was like blocking shots and doing all kind of stuff.
That's when the hype started,
So
right? Because he faced Chet.
right, but this whole hyperbole of he's the greatest prospect of any sport, and I was just like,
Yeah,
okay, we need to
so
calm down.
ridiculous. I think he's more like
We need to.
Zion Williamson level of prospect. Maybe a little higher than that.
Can I throw two things out in response to that? The first is we talk so much about how this is an entertainment product. I have absolutely no complaint with the
I
NBA
agree.
hyping incoming. They should be doing this.
Mm.
So there are things that the NBA does that I agree with, like in an annoying fashion, like, oh, you got to do this. There are things I don't like. TNT, I hate the way TNT treats the product. I just absolutely hate. And
Yeah.
even giving a little bit of respect to Charles Barkley as a heel, I still just, as the whole, hate it. You should have Wojnarowski and everybody being like, "Oh my god, this guy coming in, he's the biggest person ever, and he could be great." And the good news is we've seen this with like Banchero. Like your team doesn't need to win. If you have a rookie scoring lots of points and getting lots of blocks, like if he gets a triple double with blocks as a freshman, as a rookie, right? As a rookie, that's going to be wild. That's going to be Sports Center. That's all it needs to do. Absolutely hype your incoming talent. You know, that's one thing as a Nuggets fan we have hated for years is we have this young up and coming squad that's amazing that just does not get the spotlight. So like I do not mind San Antonio getting the spotlight if they might potentially be a contender in a few years, which could still happen. You know, a lot of things have to go right, but I'm like, start hyping them now. So if they are good in 3 or 4 years, we're ready for them. That I agree with. One other thing that we talked a lot pre-show that I want to make sure gets a little bit of spotlight before we head out, Andrew, that you brought up that makes me a little more excited than I might have otherwise been is you noted that Wemby, unlike other upcoming bigs, when we talk, you know, the Zions, the Anthony Davises, even the Joel Embiids that were in the United States system, the college system that just does not treat players right. You said he was one of the most micromanaged players, and he's got a team around him. Now, I don't necessarily think they're doing the right thing for his box score, but I think the Spurs can do that. But you were saying stuff like health, like his sleep, his conditioning, his feet. And so I'm having I was you know, one of my fears was an Embiid situation, this really talented tall person that looks great in the NBA and just can't keep up. But you're giving some indication there might be hope there.
Yes, and then I hope they don't do what happened with Giannis is try to bulk him too fast. I saw this old b-ball breakdown video about Giannis. You know, his theory was that him bulking up messed up his shooting. Coach Nick, and there's some evidence because the way he shoots now wasn't the way Giannis shot early on in his career. His shooting form. I don't know if that's because of the muscles or whatnot, but I just hope we're in a different age where players don't have to be as bulky now.
Yeah, and
Everything's more perimeter oriented. Players don't really use the post. I mean, teams don't use the post as much because there's between Jokic and Embiid, those are the only two post guys in the NBA.
High
Big men
volume,
anyway.
yeah.
Yeah, the rest of them are pick and pop
Jokic has
or
a
role
floater.
guys. Yeah, Jokic, yeah, with the floater, yeah. But there's not a lot of banging down low the way they did in the 80s and 90s anymore. A lot of guys are pick and pop guys or pick and roll guys, and they just roll into the basket.
To me, this is
Yeah,
all about the rule changes because so the Warriors are the basic example of this. It doesn't always work, but if there's a big, huge guy like Anthony Davis, they're like, we're just going to double team you. We're not going to do the 80s style where you back them down because you weren't allowed to double team back then,
yeah.
right? I think that's what's causing that mostly.
I love it. And then that's where I have the bigger faith and belief that there, might be a shot there. And one last point. Ironically, Brian, I noticed that the title of the show, this is my fault because I've retitled the show. So I had this title Pack Breaking. I've been breaking old packs of cards. In the early 90s, Manute Bol was actually on
Nice.
the Golden State Warriors.
That's
And
right.
what was funny is I remembered Manute Bol as a bad player, and I'm not wrong. But if you look at him as a freshman, I keep saying freshman, I should say rookie. As a rookie in the NBA, he was actually productive. But of course, don't forget, I think he joined late, like he was old and you degrade. And we know this about big players. And so, that's the thing. If you've got a super tall player, it is really, really, really hard for them to last a long time in the NBA if they're not going to do it right. So I think Andrew's point is right. If we see Wemby bulk up, that would be a tell and a worry. And friend of the show, Art Rondo, 100% agrees that bulking up players impacts shooting, both how they shoot
Mm.
and shooting efficiency. So it matters a lot, especially for free throws. So agreed there. I think the good news is I think we all sound optimistic. I think we have a nice Goldilocks in the Three Bears where I think Andrew is like the least optimistic. I've turned in medium. I was least, and now I'm turning medium, and Brian likes it. I think we all agree, right? I don't think any of us think the Spurs are going anywhere next year without a major move.
Yeah, that's
Right,
fair.
right. And I was gonna make 2 points. One, another player that was also in that U19 World Championships that he's one of my sleeper prospects in this draft, Zach Edey.
Yes, we talked about him.
Yeah. Zach Edey is one of my guys. I felt like he was outside of Zion was the most dominant player in college basketball over the last 4 years. And so
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see where he goes. And I know you just mentioned Manute Bol. And it's funny, Bol was
Yes.
on the Nuggets team that played the Lakers in the bubble. If you don't remember.
I do remember.
And he was like getting a lot of buzz during that run in the bubble. And it's just funny. He had such a good season for Orlando. And it's just like
He's finally healthy, right? He's finally looking better. I love it.
right. And the Denver Nuggets, their front office is one of those front offices that I trust the most when it comes to their scouting department. It used to be like San Antonio's, but I don't have any faith in their scouting department. Like, like how we traditionally have been like, well, you could just pencil up or pin in whoever they pick as the draft pick for their team that they're going to be a future Hall of Famer or they're going to be a really good player in the finals or whatever. But they haven't hit on the pick in a while.
Let's see if they kind of swing back because some of that was when they, went for LaMarcus Aldridge, and I'll throw him under the bus. When Kurt Goldsberry went there as an analyst, and like some of the stuff about him when he was like giving interviews, I'm like, really, that's the advice you gave? So hopefully, maybe this smack or what worked before. Of course, what kickstarted them in the '80s, and then what kickstarted them in the '90s, right? Yeah, both is basically lucking into a number one pick that then turned out to be transcendent. So let's see if that happens again here. I'm not expecting much out of next year between Wemby or Edey next year because we like both, and of course both are big. So I'm also a fan.
I was listening to a reporter talk about where Zach Edey could potentially go, and he was like, the fit for him would be the Nuggets.
Yeah, Jokic's backup. I love it.
Don't toy with me. I'm sick of being toy. What's funny is like as a Nuggets fan, I'm sick of being toyed with, and then like the one time I wasn't and was true, the trade for Aaron Gordon at the trade deadline. Not the optimal trade, I would argue that might have been slightly better, but was like way better than I expected. Like never happens. And then now we're 3 games from an NBA Finals with it. So like on the one hand, I'm like, don't toy with me. On the other hand, heck yeah, we're shooting hot, right? We're in Vegas, we're shooting hot. Let's keep it rolling. All right, Brian, I'll let you have one last thought. Andrew, one last thought, and that can be the show.
Oh yeah, just on Edie, he's a little bit older, so he played 4 years. He might have a little better chance to make an impact than a lot of these young guys that we're talking about, but it's tough, right? So he's also bulkier. He's not skinny. It's really tough to make it in the league and be able to play heavy minutes where you can't guard the perimeter. But I'm excited to see if Edie can, go against that trend and dominate down low and make them pay for it. So yeah, I love big
But
players.
but I was gonna say, isn't that a critique of that was a critique of Jokic coming in, his foot speed,
Yeah,
but it hasn't been a problem for him. So it just kind of boggles my mind when scouts or evaluators say, hey, this guy doesn't move his feet well, da, 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 da. And it's just like, well, the guy who's been the MVP and potentially could have been the three-time MVP in a row, he's not the most agile guy.
it's true. But is he
Well,
the
yeah,
exception that proves the rule?
They made the complaint about Luka. They said Luka wasn't as athletic and this, that, and it's just like guys can
Brandon
still
Clark, who
have
you
success
mentioned
on the
earlier, Brandon Clark fell way down for no reason.
Well, his thing was age.
Oh, that
His
could
was
be.
an age thing. His was an age thing because athletically he was off the charts.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was off the charts athletically.
I thought he played slower, but I
He's a
guess he
freak.
doesn't.
He's a freak.
He's really
Hope he
good.
gets. I hope he's healthy next year. That was a real bummer this year. All right, Andrew. Last comments, then we can go and be excited about the Nuggets, who need to sweep. They need to win tomorrow.
But yeah, I just go back to that whole Moneyball scene where the guys are sitting around the table, and I feel like all of these teams that are in the lottery, you should go watch that clip. Don't get so enamored with a guy's swing.
That's so funny.
That looks great. I mean, the one counter I will give, with apologies, because I love those Moneyball clips. If you've never seen the movie Moneyball, there are such amazing clips, and there is a scene, the parking lot scene where Jonah Hill's character is saying, there's a fundamental problem with like what we spent, like that was poetry and that's wins produced. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's still the case in the NBA that is how it goes. But what I will throw you is the way the NBA and even Major League Baseball set up rookie contracts is like, you cannot lose. There is nobody you can draft as long as you are willing to cut ties by year 2 if they don't look good in the NBA draft that you lose on. There's probably some upside, right? Like you could probably trade Wemby away for something really good if you're wise. Even that, though, requires some clever negotiation. So, because I mean, even that I get worried, right? Like you could probably get Willard for Wemby right now, right? But now you're getting a guy in his 30s that might, I noted we're still in the same spot where if you get a star in the Spurs, they're still a year or 2 away for competing. So it's like if you're going to trade the upside of a possible good future player that costs you nothing, you kind of need to win now. And if you're not in win now mode, that's kind of a risk. So nobody loses in the draft lottery, even picking wrong. It's really more that none of these teams are able to give up on the players when they are wrong after the fact. So to your point in the Moneyball scene, I think, teams do it wrong and they still can't lose and they find a way to lose, which is hilarious.
I go back to the last pick that San Antonio had that was actually a good pick was Kyle Anderson. That was the same draft that Jokic was in, and Jokic went in the second round.
Everybody, and that was Gobert too, right? Weren't Jokic and Gobert in the same, or am I wrong?
That wasn't the same draft. That Gobert was the year before.
Okay, yeah, close. But yeah, the Nuggets drafted Gobert and Jokic back to back.
That was that 2013 was the Gobert and Giannis draft.
Oh, very nice, which is ridiculous. So, and yeah, I mean, let's point out all the scouts missed on Jokic, right? Everybody passed on him at least once. All the MVP voters
for that matter too.
Yeah, everybody in the draft lottery. And that was funny, right? If we recall when the Kings were like when everybody was getting shoved out of house with new ownership, that was some of their arguments like, yeah, we almost drafted Giannis. Come on, give me a break. But yeah, let's just point out that a lot of the pundits and the people, I love that point, Andrew, and you're saying people being scared of upcoming rookies. You're like, yeah, these people missed on Jokic. They didn't vote Jokic MVP. So what do they know? And I'm just like, yeah, they're gambling with house money, so it's free. All right, so go Nuggets. Again, the show has been named Nuggets in 4 or Lakers in 7. So tomorrow's kind of important because obviously there's only one configuration for 4 that can happen. So we'll see. As always, thank you for joining, Andrew. By the way, I'll give a shout out preemptively, Brian. It looks like we might go back to weekly briefly for the playoffs. Chris Ye expressed interest. And unless the Nuggets are really beaten up on the Lakers and he's depressed, we're hoping to have him on next week. We'll try. We'll do our best. So there is that. Andrew, of course, you're welcome back. So Andrew Sutton, anything you want to plug? Any place you're at the moment?
Nothing to plug. It's funny that you're pack breaking. I just got into cars again. So I'm all ultra modern though. I'm picking up boxes and seal wax and stuff like that.
Are you recording it?
I'm not recording it.
Dude,
I'm just putting it to the side. I'm just putting it to the side. I'm not breaking packs yet.
When you start, like, I mean, I've kind of admitted I'm getting an addiction, right? Like, there's this is how geeky I am. Like right now, I'm beating a friend's mobile game and learning how to beat Castlevania. So I've been busy not taking packs, but like I'm trying to complete my 89 hoop set. I have 89, 90, 91, 92 hoops ready to go. If you and I can talk to you about like camera configuration. If you want to start pack breaking on this channel and then I can watch, then I don't have to spend money. I'm down. So just keep me posted.
Okay.
And I can't speak for Brian, but Brian, if you want to join in, and that's for me, as you know, guy with a kid, so I don't have a nightlife anymore. I just stay home.
And
someone's breaking
and guy with a kid on the way.
Oh, congrats!
Congratulations!
Thanks. Yep, baby girl.
Amazing.
Nice. Yep.
Okay,
there's gonna be a lot of WNBA in the house right now.
Gonna say,
we're watching a lot of WNBA now.
Are you already starting to like? Pinging UConn, right? Just preemptively,
oh no, LSU Tigers now, right?
Yeah, I was
Bengals.
Oh wow, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. UConn's been lacking lately.
Yeah, they're good on the men's side now. What the heck?
Yeah, they're underrated blue blood on the men's side.
All right, but definitely yeah, you can tell I have a problem where I'm like, definitely keep me posted on that and like starting to get jittery.
I got you. I got you. Yep. Pokemon, I do a little bit of that. I got some seal wax that I'm holding on to, trying to see if the value is going to go up on it. I'm into the investment side of it.
Funny note, I'll give my shout out preemptively. I'll say on the podcast that Brian was on recently, the Nerd Podcast with Jeff May, where he did Magic the Gathering tomorrow, although it'll be in the past after I release this. But it is already out by the time you're listening to this podcast. If you didn't hear live, we do the Pokemon trading card game. We talk that. We do more of the early days. Same with Brian. Like we're doing like late 90s, early 2000s of it. But we have that coming out this week. That would be May 18th. So definitely check that out. And that's with Elise Gilgowski, who is a really amazing stand-up comedian who also played it as a child. So that'll be fun. Pokemon as well interested. Yeah, Andrew, we gotta talk more. And Brian and I have been talking about like the streaming nature of this channel and what it could become. So that'll be fun. Boxscore Brian on Twitter. Anything else you want to plug, promote, Brian?
No, just shout out to both. Great conversation tonight, especially Andrew for coming back. One of our old school hosts is back hosting the show again. I love it. Great to talk to you both tonight.
Absolutely. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Like I said, we haven't been weekly in like years now. That whole pandemic thing kind of knocked us off, right, Brian? But Nuggets haven't been playing this good in the playoffs in over 40 years. I wasn't even born the last time they were doing it. So we'll keep it rolling. All right, everybody. Boxscore Geeks. You can find us where most podcasts are found as the Boxscore Geeks. We usually go live Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do Wednesdays if it overlaps with a playoff game. And I did not want to miss the Nuggets' first game. Absolutely right call, right, Brian? Because they won it. So 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, usually bi-weekly, occasionally weekly. You can find me most places as Nerd Numbers. Brian Foster, most places as Boxscore Brian. Of course, twitch.tv/Nerd Numbers if you want to catch it live when we do that. And channel Nerd Numbers to catch that and maybe more content in the future. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.